This has been Systems signing off.
Awesome. So, yeah, well, we sign off and then
off.
we wait 2 seconds and then we go into game dev mode. Yeah. Well, okay, wait.
Yeah,
I have one thing to say
bonus.
first. One thing to say first.
Bonus
Matt,
episode.
your space military game, what was it? Ada
Ignition?
Ada Ignition. Have you ever heard of a game called Stars Without Number?
No.
So it is a system that is specifically built for it's a game where you have you have interstellar capabilities, but not beyond light speed. It's specifically and purposefully built for a society that was able to travel to space, and then something called the Scream cut them off from their technology hub on Earth, and now they're just amongst the stars trying to survive, and it's specifically built with support for factions and all that stuff. I know it's an interesting factoid. Obviously, you do GURPS, so
yeah, usually.
Yeah. Okay. Anyways, that was a fun rant. I was like, oh, I have a game for that.
Speaking of space military games,
Yes.
Trent, do you recall when we were doing that service project on the mission at some member's house, and we got talking about how would you play, because there was a campaign that my brother's been thinking about running for a long time, but he wants it to be a very high mortality space military campaign. So there's like a large troop and people like dying off left and right.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember that?
Vaguely.
And we were having trouble thinking of something. But when Matt said space military, it just made me think of that. And I had this idea. So, say you're playing this and you want it to be a campaign where it's like, this is not going to be a super long campaign. There's a specific mission that they're going to try to get through. Maybe it's they need to get through these tunnels to the opposite side of this asteroid or whatever, right? High stakes, very easy for characters to die off, get killed by aliens or whatever. But there's a large number of characters that aren't super developed. So, my idea for how to do this is each player plays as like a troop with, I don't know, like 4 or like 5 minor characters.
Oh, I remember this.
And
sorry.
Wait, because Matthew's been tossing this idea around since the days.
Yeah,
of
we
Blizzards
did
of the Toast. So did
we
you
did
ever
like
hear
a
the rundown on
half
this?
session of this.
That's right.
Yeah, it was using like
That's
the Jedi
right.
system.
Okay. Yes. So
I do remember you talking about that.
Here's
the Jedi system specifically part of it.
Here's my idea for this. You have a sheet in front of you. It has the names of your different characters. And you have, you have like an accent written down for each character, because you need to, and they need to all be very distinct with how they sound. Like, high pitched nasally, this one, haughty British, this one, whatever. But then each character has, I don't know how many stats you would want there to be in this, like 4 stats. And so each squad will have a medic, they'll have a strategist, they'll have a engineer, and they'll have they'll have the moral backbone or whatever. I don't know. But
they have a tank, let's be honest.
Yeah. But each character will have a medic score and a fight score and whatever. So they'll just have 4 numbers next to them. When you're playing, the stats that you use is you get to use the highest stat available to you for each thing, for each character that you have that's not currently incapacitated. So you'll have if your medic is out of commission, then maybe you have another character that has, you don't have your character that has a 4 in medic, but you have another character that has a 3 in medic. So you still aren't immediately completely wiped out. But then you can be losing characters but not be out of the game immediately, but it still really hurts because each character has a name and their own voice. And then also in some ways you'll be your stats will be weakened as it happens. I don't know. That was the idea that I had. What do you guys think?
I mean, I think it's good because I've agreed to play it before. It was just a bit different than I think how you delivered it there.
When we did it before, though, were we doing each person's playing as one character, or did we
Each
say
player
each
had
person
3
has a
characters,
troop?
I think.
Ah, okay. Which was crazy. But also, I think it'd be awesome if we could manage a way to actually pull it off.
I agree. I think that'd be super fun.
Yeah.
I like the idea.
I think maybe it could also be like you're supposed to have in mind one character from your troop that's kind of your main character,
The captain.
and you're like fleshing them out a little bit more, and they're slightly less likely to die than any of the other characters, but they still could. So there's still that like high sense of danger that's still kind of Game of Thrones-esque or Joss Whedon show-esque, where it's like somebody could just randomly die, and it's like, oh wow, like I guess this other person who I thought was a much more minor character is actually the main character here.
So we're looking at a squad of 3 to 4 soldiers who are kind of fragile, but kind of not. Depends on the situation.
I'm thinking like if you take a damage, then it's like your hit points isn't like, oh, each character has 6 hit points or 10 hit points or whatever. It's like your hit points are the members of your troop. And so you can take a damage and it's like, oh, that's a member of the troop incapacitated. Like they're still alive, but they're like not able to assist right now because they're injured and the medical equipment is working on them. But then you can get hit again and have that character be permanently dead.
This sounds kind of like a have you ever played XCOM?
No, but I've played Mario Mario plus Rabbids Kingdom Battle. Which is the Nintendo version of XCOM. Surprisingly. Featuring the minions of video games. And it was one of the best games for the Nintendo Switch.
I was just going to say this idea. It kind of reminds me of if XCOM was an RPG.
Yeah, I can see that.
I haven't played XCOM, so I'll have to look it up to get an idea of what
it's like a top-down strategy shooter, turn-based, against aliens and stuff.
Turn-based strategy, yeah. Turn-based strategy. Yep.
It's a really good game. I haven't played it, but I know it's really good.
I really enjoy it. It's a good mix of short-term and long-term strategy, because you can do absolutely wonderful at short-term strategy and then realize 12 hours later that you screwed yourself over right at the beginning.
Interesting.
But it's a ton of fun.
But yeah, I like this idea I have for this because it gets rid of the problem of like you having to have a million turns because each person has 3 characters or whatever. Because instead it's just like you take your turn is what your entire squad does, but your stats are still better if the more people that you have intact.
Yeah, and you can just have like a bit like like an index card or a business card or whatever for each of the squaddies.
Yeah, like 2 character traits and a voice. And then it kind of builds from there, I guess.
Eventually you just end up with that one squad from Clone Wars where you got like, was it Fives and Heavy and the other clones whose names escape me, and they like most of them survived and they did cool stuff, I guess. I don't know. I didn't watch all of Clone Wars.
Oh my gosh. And then you could build into the story, like, if you wanted to, you could have in the story, like, there are, like, people that you can add to your squad as you go. Like, maybe you're on a rescue mission or I don't know, something where it's like, oh, now you have 2 more people in your squad who have these stats that were already predetermined. And, like, maybe you lost your medic and that sucks, but you just found this guy who's a doctor who has a 0 in his fight stat, but he has a 4 in his medic or whatever. That you'd have that instead of having like a health potion.
Oh, man, I'm just like looking through all of my other campaign notes and be like, I wish I could run this. There's so many good ideas I never get to like share because I just don't get to play these campaigns. Like the reason I didn't go with Grand Mendoza is because it's supposed to be a little bit more probably like violent and inappropriate than is acceptable for systems. But like, I mean, I say that, but also some pretty gruesome stuff has happened.
Violent, yes. Inappropriate, no.
Yeah, not as much. But like, Gosh,
Yeah.
like one of my favorite things from here is basically one of the factions. They're basically uh what's a really good way to put this without being like absolutely horrible? They're like uh, it's like well, I can't say that because they are problematic. Basically, it's very much like a gilded society that lives inside like this world's equivalent of Disneyland, where everything seems like, the
Uh-huh.
park is like still kind of actually functioning, but it's very much like I guess you could basically almost call it a fascist state, where it's run by like this guy who's just like a combination of like a fascist dictator, Willy Wonka, and Walt Disney.
I like it.
It's like
I like
a
it. I can dig.
Well,
totalitarian cult,
kind of, but like you know, like it's not
capitalist cult.
horrible. It's just there's no freedoms.
Uh,
If you took that idea and just skewed it from fascist to like hyper capitalist, that's actually the campaign that the Adventure Zone is running
Now, see,
right
it's
now.
funny because I do
interesting.
have a different there's a different thing that's kind of looping around where there's a different faction. In fact, their biggest enemy, um, they built out of a giant mall, and it's called the Cell, and that is a yeah
SELL.
the SELL, because it's based out of a giant mall, but it's a
I love
giant
it.
it's a communist state that is built around a like the idolization of like this young girl who's like their hero basically, and they've got like a fanatic devotion to her. And so like they're like at war, and they've grown really quickly because they're just like willing to try to grow their society for her. There's one where it's oh gosh, it's like the former major like freeway overpass exchange, like a group of people like stalled that out, and they turned it into like like a vagabond or like a wanderer sort of city where it's like very free. There's like no rules, but it's like it's just all these people coming here for like safety and sanctuary, and it's like a crossroads. Yeah.
Too fun. We need to play more. And I say that fully knowing well that I'm one of the main reasons we don't play more. Yeah. I kind of like something to shake it up though. Like
Yeah,
it's gotten
that's true.
It's gotten a little bit too steady. Well, that's not true. It's definitely not been steady recently. But I'd still like something to shake it up a little bit. Like
Me fighting
that's
with
why
you.
I was excited about Jeremy coming on, because like yeah, I guess
I think
not steady character dynamics wise, but steady tonally.
I think I think it'll be a pretty decently big change. With even you can feel the difference in Bird Crimes and The Witch is Dead. Those games are different than Dystropia.
Oh,
I
yeah.
think me running a
That's
campaign and
true.
Trent being a player, that switches up the thing a lot. You throw a third player into that mix, almost the
Yeah.
entire thing is different, other than you.
That's true. That's true.
Like we're the same people, but we're
Yeah.
different when it comes to running versus all this stuff. I think you throw a third person in here, the game is totally different, especially with the kind of game that I'm going to be running. That's again a campaign that is half based around a Halloween costume.
Yeah. I think honestly what we might need to do just to like help with that that steadiness is we just need to be a bit better about doing one shots every so often.
Fair, yeah.
Honestly, yeah.
Because like Witch is Dead, Bird Crimes, those were both good and awesome breaths of fresh
Yeah.
air.
Yeah, it's true. And because I mean, I love the idea of Bravo, but I kind of get tired of being Bravo after a while. And so, yeah.
Yeah,
Plus,
I get you. And I'm personally ready to like I want to get to the finale of Dystropia to be like, cool, that was a fun story. Put a bow on it, set it aside, move on to something else.
yeah.
We've got a whole nother
Yeah.
third arc. Yeah.
Yeah. One thing that I've been working on a little bit while in the space between the last time we played and now, I had an idea, because like the concept of noir and like those kind of like gritty mystery stories, I think it's fun and it's entertaining. Not necessarily that the stuff that's come out of the genre is necessarily great, but it's like I don't know, it's a cool vibe. And so I've been working on making a system that is like a procedurally generated or like I shouldn't say procedurally. It's randomly. You can roll dice on tables to make the entire game, but like RPG.
Okay. And is it noir, like noir set?
Yeah, it's like it's noir themed. A lot of the stuff that goes on surrounds a mix of corrupt cops, mafia and mob influence, and people lying to manipulate you.
Okay.
I like it.
Interesting.
It's at the point where I would want to start playtesting certain parts of it and see how it goes. And yeah. Oh, I could actually give me 2 seconds. I can just share the Google Doc where it's all built with you guys.
Nice.
And my absolute favorite thing, because this is not production ready even remotely. It's that I can do whatever I want with stuff. And so in the section where it's like, here's how to build a character, the character is just straight up Danny DeVito.
Oh my gosh, I was just about to tell my own Danny DeVito story here. I'm on my phone screen right now. I was laughing. I'm still looking at my notes, and I'm like, remember how I was talking about how I just like to insert jokes into here? One of these characters that I've got here that was from the Aeolian Adventures, the comedy fantasy that I ran with Jeremy and Andy and Laura. There's a guy who's basically just like a magical pawn shop owner. His name is Trustworthy Jack, and it's just a Danny DeVito impression. This is alongside the weapons store owner, whose name is Jim Halberd. And let's not forget their big ally, who is an ice fighter, whose name was Jacques Froust.
Nice.
Which they knew who Jacques Froust was from like game session 1, and they only realized in the very last session that it was just a stupid way of saying Jack Frost.
Jack Frost, yeah. My gosh.
Talking like 24 sessions, and they never realized that it was just Jack Frost.
Oh my gosh.
Too good.
That is hilarious.
I'm going to click on this Fedoras and Whiskey. As we play, do we get extra points if
we drink whiskey?
We wear fedoras and drink whiskey.
Well, so I'll give you the general rundown of how that works. The system is based quasi loosely off of how the Burning Wheel works, which is where you have attributes that have a number of dice, and when you have to make a test for that attribute, you roll that number of dice, and anything that is a 4, 5, or 6 counts as a success towards the task. And if you fail a task, if you fail a task that is dangerous, the narrator will give you something called stress. And your character can handle somewhere between 6 and 10 stress, depending on their background. The way you reduce stress is whiskey.
Okay.
All right.
I was going to say, let me go to the outline, because I just want to hop to that.
I've got another quick thing for my space military.
Yeah.
The autopilot's name is he's an AI hologram. His name is Autologic Flight Response Emulator and Database, also known as Alfred. And it's just my Alfred impression from Batman.
Nice.
There you go. Yeah. Okay, yeah. Here we go. I found it. It goes, whiskey is a tool that can be acquired through gameplay. There are 2 truths about noir fiction. Everyone smokes and everyone drinks far too much. So what better coping mechanism for stress than blatant alcoholism?
You just have, if it's just one drink, it's not alcoholism. I'll grab my actual bourbon on the rocks and drink along with the game.
If it's one drink, it's not. But we are specifically talking about you relying on it to cope.
Okay, that's, you know what, you're right.
Yeah.
My bad.
Wait,
I missed that subtext.
Yeah. So I mean, like this game was a mix of, man, I would love a game like this, but I don't want to go looking for one. I'll just make it instead, kind of because I want to have the experience of making it. And also, man, it's raining at work and I have nothing to do. I guess I'm gonna be creative and write down stuff for a game. But yeah, no, like the idea is that as you go, like things are supposed to be determined kind of for you. You know, honestly, part of the inspiration for this was when we were playing The Witch is Dead and Bird Crimes. Matt, some of your feedback about stuff was that you didn't know when to like when to trigger certain events.
Yeah.
And so I was like, okay, cool. Well, what if there was a system where, the idea is that like you're doing game night or whatever, and someone invites an extra person over, or someone cancels and you can't do the game you thought of, and you've got about 5 minutes, a bunch of dice and a deck of cards. What can you do? And I'm like, okay, let's see if we can do this. The general idea is that like the narrator will generate a client and the mystery, and then from there, at a set number of die rolls, a plot twist happens that progresses the story. And after 2 plot twists, it's up to the characters to either succeed or fail at solving the mystery.
I see.
Interesting. Is the mystery...
Do I know if it works? No.
But
that's what playtesting's for.
Like, is the mystery set and determined? Like, is it something that the game master knows what it is? Or is does the act of solving the mystery establish what the solution was?
The latter. So I took a leaf
Agatha
out of
Christie style.
Yeah. So for instance, when you're creating a mystery as a narrator, all you'll know when you create it is like if you're like my blank was blanked, and I think it was because of blank. Blank was also involved, which makes no sense when you say it that way. But when you're involving a person, it's like my spouse was kidnapped. I think it was because he owes a debt to someone. His bookie would know. And that's all that like the narrator knows about the mystery until the PCs go and try and solve it.
Okay.
Yeah. And like there's that part of the, like the prep for the narrator is to take index cards and using a couple of tables generate 4 or 5 NPCs that he or she may need to conjure out of nothingness during the game. It's things like that where it's like try to use tables to generate as much of it as possible.
Yeah.
And then just let the chaos and entropy that is players be the thing that makes the game interesting, as opposed to trying to invent a mystery that's actually got some like plot twists and stuff that's riveting.
Okay.
Well, we should test it out. Honestly, I really like the idea of systems becoming a very multifaceted role-playing game show. And I think one of those facets could be like, here's a game mechanic we thought of, like, and we're playtesting it live, basically. Not live, but like, here's audio of us playtesting it and seeing what happens.
Yeah, we can see something like that. I'm not going to be too much of like on that, because I don't really like coming up with systems usually. But
yeah,
I would playtest for sure.
Yeah.
No, yeah. Well, that's like I'm not like there are enough people that are actually skilled and actually good at this too that deserve my money. So I'm not going to be doing this all the time, but fun projects on the side where you're like, I kind of just want to do this. I want to figure this out.